Everyone is clearly trying to bang Geralt, which is understandable because he is a silver fox. He's basically the George Clooney of the Witcher world. Hello everybody and welcome back or welcome to the channel. Today we are going over a review of The Witcher: Time of Contempt. Now this will be a lightly spoiler-filled review because I imagine if you are watching a review of the second book, you either want to know what happens or you've already read the book. So we'll start this review with a brief recap of what happens in this book. This book starts off with a professional messenger teaching new messengers how to be a messenger and running messengers himself. When I was reading it, I actually really enjoyed this character, but I knew that he wasn't going to be around for very long because he was just a tool. He was sort of just like a tool that helps you recap what's happened in the last book. And honestly, this was done really well by the author, because honestly, in a lot of series, if you are chain reading them, like I'm chain reading The Witcher right now, it can be a bit annoying when you put down the previous book, then you pick up the next book in the series and you've got 20 pages or 50 or 100 pages if you're unlucky of just rehashing what happened in the last book. Obviously it's understandable why authors do it, but it is still a little annoying nonetheless. It's like when you're chain watching a show on Netflix and you just want to skip the recap. But this messenger was a great little tool in order to provide an entertaining version of a recap. I didn't mind it at all in the slightest, and I honestly wish the character didn't die. Yennefer and Ciri have left the monastery and they're heading to a wizard island in order to have a wizard party. While they are in the city adjacent to Wizard Party Island, Yennefer finds out that somebody is tracking her financial movements, and she sets up an unlimited line of credit through the banking system in secret. Ciri explored the little city, she found out she's going to school, and she decided to have a little bit of a rebellion phase. So when she was going through the city, she stirred up a monster in a cage, the monster escaped, no one was hurt but a little dog. But in all honesty, I would have rathered the dog's owner died than the heroic little dog. Yennefer plans to drop Ciri off at a wizarding school on Wizard Party Island. Ciri finds out about it and realizes that it's going to be kind of like a prison. So before she is stuck in the schooling system for however many years, she decides she must escape the city in order to see Geralt one more time. While she is on her way to go and see Geralt, she encounters the Wild Hunt, which is a precursor or a omen of war. Yennefer follows Ciri and she's angry, but then she meets up with Geralt and they are one big happy de facto family once more. Geralt and Yennefer are getting on great, but then comes the scene from every TV show or every movie where one person in the relationship comes from high society or from a lot of money and their partner doesn't. They're invited to a classy ball, or in this case, a wizard party. And the lower class character has to try and not embarrass themselves and their partner at this high class event. Unfortunately for the reader, this is where the story kind of bogs down a little because there are a lot of names and a lot of titles and a lot of nicknames that you have to remember in this phase. But basically the only thing you have to keep in mind is everyone is suspicious, everyone is a double agent for either a king or a nation or a belief, everyone's trying to double cross everyone else, and everyone is clearly trying to bang Geralt, which is understandable because he is a silver fox. He's basically the George Clooney of the Witcher world. After the wizard party, Geralt and Yennefer go back to their room in order to reconnect. Geralt gets up at sunrise the next morning to go and pee, and everything goes to hell. All the wizards are fighting, some people are being blown up, some people are being arrested. Geralt gets the crap beaten out of him, and Yennefer and Ciri disappear off the island. Ciri wakes up in a desert where she is about to die until she befriends a unicorn named Little Horse. After she befriends the unicorn and bonds with it, the unicorn leads her to a water source, saving Ciri's life. They end up fighting a desert monster together where the horse is bitten and is poisoned. Ciri realizes that the only way that she can save the horse and herself is to draw magic from fire, even though Yennefer has explicitly told her do not draw magic from fire. But she needs the magic in order to cast a healing spell on the horse and summon rain for herself so she doesn't die of dehydration. So she starts a fire and draws the magical energy from it. Although upon drawing the magical energy from the fire, she sees an apparition that tells her that she will end the world. Ciri instead renounces her magical abilities. She is then captured by bounty hunters that work for the Nilfgaards, or the Nilfgaardian Emperor, which ends with all of them being killed. Ciri escapes and joins a group of outlaws called the Rats. And I am all for Ciri the Outlaw. In my opinion, it is about time that she was unleashed and was able to go and do some cool stuff with all this training that she's had. So with that recap out of the way, let's get into the review. I want to start this review with the plot itself, because I've been thinking a lot about the plot of this series as I've been reading it, and it turned out to be nothing like what I was expecting. I feel like as this series is progressing, there is less and less witchering going on in the books. Like in the first 2 collections of short stories, it was basically all witchering. It was all monster hunting or talking about monsters or whatever. It was all Witcher related stuff. And then in Blood of Elves, Geralt fought a lake monster and he had a run-in with the squirrels. But in this one, there was no witchering at all. And it feels like a zombie movie or a zombie TV show where at the start, everyone thinks that the zombies are the problem, but then it quickly becomes apparent that it turns out that humans are the actual real problem. And to be honest, I don't actually mind. I've never really gotten into a lot of stories that have a really strong kind of political theme around them, such as The Witcher or Game of Thrones. And I've never given a book like that a chance because I always imagined it would be kind of boring. But given the introduction to the Witcher world and how it's had this tone shift where it's suddenly become a lot more political, I really don't mind it. And it's really, in my opinion, opening my eyes up to how good a book like this can be. So going forward, I won't shy away from books that have this kind of massive overarching political view, such as countries and empires going to war with each other and political council meetings. Anyway, like I said, this book is a lot more politically driven than I was expecting. Like at least half of this story is global politics with some war strategy thrown in the mix. And like I said, I was enjoying it. The only real issue I have is that there is no map. And it's not so much that there's no map in the book, but I jumped on Google and I Googled official Witcher map for the books, and it turns out there is no official Witcher map. There's lots of fan-made maps, but there is no official map. So all this political intrigue and war strategy is kind of wasted on me because I can't really put all these names to places in my head. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. During a war strategy meeting, someone will be briefing someone else and they'll say, the Chumbawambas are moving across the Biltong border through the Valley of Ducks. And I'm like, is that good? Is that bad? Is that close? Is that far away? Is that particularly surprising? Is the Valley of Ducks particularly difficult to cross? Is it the easiest route? Was this the expected route or the unexpected route? And I just struggle with it when there's so much emphasis on the war strategy and the world as a whole, but it isn't really grounded in any way. It just kind of says things to the north or things to the east or the south or the west. And that's kind of it. There's just kind of cardinal directions. And I'm just kind of sitting there going, okay, cool, I understand the world is in turmoil, let's get back to Geralt, or let's get back to Ciri, and let's do some cool monster hunting stuff. Anyway, that's my take on it. I have a good friend of mine, shout out to Jacob if you're watching. He played the Witcher games before he read the books. And he was actually the first person to tell me about the Witcher books, because it's a series that he really enjoyed. So I'm wondering, if you've played the games before you read the books, did it make understanding the politics and the war strategy easier because you had a better understanding of the different races, the different people, the different empires, and where they were? Because I imagine the games had maps of their own. And if you haven't played the games, but you have read the books, did you struggle to understand the global politics, or did you struggle to place names to a mental image of a map in your head? Or was it just me? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you are new to my channel, I'm all about books, whether it be reading them, writing them, or reviewing them. I'm the published author of this book right here. So please like this video, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. I'm getting close to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm pretty pumped about that. So I'd really appreciate your subscription, and thank you very much in advance. Now let's get into characters. In regards to Geralt and Yennefer, I don't really think that they went through too much of a transition in this book, because I have a feeling this book was a lot more focused on Ciri's transition. Geralt learnt that maybe his neutrality wasn't the best option anymore, because he has to protect Ciri and to a lesser extent Yennefer. He's been tied to Ciri through fate, and Ciri is not neutral, so he is starting to realize that he cannot be neutral anymore. Yennefer, in my opinion, didn't really grow that much, but she did get to flex at the Wizard Ball. She got to show off how much of a player she was, how powerful and high-ranking she was. So you got to learn more about her, which was really interesting, and you got to learn more about her magic, which was really interesting. But she did have one very important moment in the book, when the world was going to shit all around her, and she told Ciri to run away. and I quote, "Ciri," said the enchantress softly, "I once told you that everything I do is for your own good. Trust me, I beg you. Now run for it." Ciri was already on the steps when she heard Yennefer's voice once more. The enchantress was standing beside a column, resting her forehead against it. "I love you, my daughter," she said indistinctly. "Run." In my opinion, this was a really great moment in the book, because in the other books, there was such a weird fascination and focus on the fact that Yennefer couldn't have kids, but was desperately trying to find a way to make it so she could have kids. And I'm so glad that that foreshadowed the relationship between Yennefer and Ciri, and wasn't just some weird thing that the author was fixating on. So that was really nice to see happen in the book. Now let's get on to Ciri. Ciri had the best character growth in the book. She got to really spread her wings, she got to really flex her muscles, and she gained a lot of agency in her own life. You first see this in the city where the wizard party is happening, where she's being led around the city by a boy, and she takes it upon herself to tell the guy that has the monster in the cage that he's wrong about the monster, and she's fearless in her approach to it. She also defies Yennefer to go and find Geralt. Her agency really comes together though when she ends up in the desert all alone. And honestly, this is the moment I've been waiting for. Ciri's had all this schooling, she's had all this training, now she gets to spread her wings and fly and go on adventures and do cool stuff. After she survives the desert, she ends up joining with the rats. This, I feel, is the best route that the author could have taken Ciri's character, because it would have been so boring if 5 books into the Witcher series, or 3 books depending on how you count the books, Ciri still didn't have agency over her own life. She'd had all this training and all this schooling, but in the next book she was still just being babysat at a wizard school. But now she's killed her first person, gained agency over her life, and joined a group of outlaws. And honestly, I'm so excited to see what happens next for her. I hope that the next book is very heavily Ciri the Outlaw. I want to touch very briefly on Dandelion. In all my other reviews, I keep saying that I hope Dandelion does something really great in this series. I notice that he is becoming more well known in the world, and he's kind of being used as a messenger of sorts, and he keeps Geralt's secrets even under torture. I'm really hoping that he does something great. There's 3 books left in the series. That is plenty of time to do something epic. Now let's move on to world building. One of the big growth points that this author is going through is how much more effort he is putting into his world building. As each book progresses, I am learning more and more about his world. I've learned more about the magic. I've learned more about the empires and the kingdoms and the people and the races that are all involved. His description of the wizard party island, of the forests, of the rivers, the cities, the towns, they're all fantastic. I had no problem picturing them all in my mind. I won't harp on about the benefits that a map would have brought, because I've already talked about that. Before I end this review, I do want to make one small prediction. I want to make a prediction as to how I think that this series will end. I have a feeling that one of 2 things is going to happen. Either Dandelion will die, preferably doing something heroic, hopefully not as just like a way to screw with the reader's emotions, or he will live seeing the final battle take place and then write an epic poem or song or ballad about it, and the whole series will end with Dandelion starting to tell the story of The Witcher. That's my prediction. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. Make sure you like this video, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. I'm so close to 1,000. I'd really appreciate it. And as always, thank you very much.